It didn't listen to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop. And he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And literally for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go. And you tell them panicking, they're like roof flapping, and their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society. This is your host, Jeremiah Byron. Every week I talk to different people in the cryptozoology field. You never know who's going to be on next week. If you'd like to sponsor the show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. You get access to a ton of things there, including a close-knit cryptid community on Discord where you can connect with like-minded cryptid researchers and enthusiasts, weekly bonus content, the ability to hang out with each week's guest after the main show, exclusive merch, and much, much more. In this episode, I get to talk to new friend Eric Mintel from Eric Mintel Investigates on YouTube. Eric's got some wild stories. His investigation that he shares about the Beast of Bray Road is going to be a version... I'm at a loss for words still. You just got to listen to this episode. There's going to be stuff in here that you're not expecting. It's a good one. So definitely sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview with Eric Mintel from Eric Mintel Investigates. All right, Bigfoot Society. So thanks for coming back to another episode. I've got a new friend here with me, Mr. Eric Mintel from Eric Mintel Investigates. How's it going, dude?
Good. Oh, man, it is incredible. I mean, it's just blowing up big time, man.
Oh man. So I'm a newer fan of your stuff, but the stuff you're making is so cool. Let's start with we'll start with a little background so people know what your story is. And so what you sent to me, I'll just kind of do a summary of it. So first off, you're a jazz musician, which is really cool. And you've done things like you've performed for President Clinton back in the 90s, President Obama in 2011. You were at the Kennedy Center, all this crazy stuff. So you're like an awesome musician, but also you're a paranormal investigator. And you're going all over the place, all over the U.S. You're based out of Pennsylvania, but you're going to places like New Jersey, Wisconsin. Here we're more into the cryptid stuff, but you're into everything, dude, which is really cool. And I just think that's a really, really fun story. Is there anything else that you want the audience to know before we go into it?
I'm a jazz pianist, and one of my mentors in jazz, maybe some of your listeners would know, is a gentleman by the name of Dave Brubeck.
Whoa, yeah.
So Dave was a very good friend of mine. He wrote liner notes for my CDs, and so I learned a lot of life lessons from Dave as far as work ethic as a jazz musician, because as musicians, we need to work constantly, and so it was a great association. And Dave passed in 2012, but really learned a lot from him, and he and his wife were really great to me. But yeah, I mean, we performed a private concert too at the United Nations. So, just a lot of, our type of jazz with my jazz quartet, it's Eric Mintel Quartet. We do a lot of original music, and I've even written a tune called Bigfoot.
Oh, really?
And
that's awesome.
And another tune we're starting to perform called The Beast of Bray Road. So, it's funny how a lot of the paranormal investigations we do find their way into my music too.
Dude, that is so cool. How are you going to be able to listen? Is your music available all over the place, or is that a special place where
No, it's available on iTunes, Spotify. You guys can just check it out. Eric Mintel Quartet. We haven't recorded Bigfoot yet, but we're going to be doing that in next month, as a matter of fact. So,
oh man,
yeah,
that is really, really cool. That kind of leads into a question that I was going to ask you. but maybe there's other stuff too. Have you found there's any weird overlaps between your works or skills as a jazz musician and a paranormal investigator? I mean, anything that's kind of overlap there? Or?
Oh yeah. Well, I've always loved the paranormal. Always, ever since I was a kid, loved the paranormal. I'm an only child, so my father always told me stories of, and he always had weird experiences with UFOs, ghosts. We were just talking about this the other day. He vividly remembers, we used to live in an area called Upper Black Eddy, which is in Upper Bucks County. And one night around, and this is in the mid 70s, he came home one night, sat on the front porch, came home from work, and he put a steak on the grill. And as he's cooking the steak, he happens to look over, and we lived across the street from the Delaware River, where Washington crossed the Delaware, that Delaware River. He looks over and sees this white figure of a woman floating like down the river. And as she's floating, she looks at my dad, and from like 500 yards away, her face came right up to his. And then she turns back and she goes back again, and she just slowly drifted away. And he swears that happened. And she kept saying, "I'm going home. I'm going home."
Oh man.
And very creepy. So this whole area that we live in is very, very paranormal. A lot of history. There's a lot of history around here. A lot of ties to the Underground Railroad. And so one of the reasons why I started it as Bucks County Paranormal Investigations, but sure, we recently rebranded to Eric Mintel Investigates because we're going all over the country and telling great stories and focusing on ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, and now Dogman, the Beast of Bray Road. And I'll tell you another story later on too that we just are looking into. A friend of mine, Tom Carey, which I'm sure some of your listeners would know, he is the authority on the Roswell crash, has written several books, talked to witnesses who actually saw the bodies and held the crash debris. But Tom is also an anthropologist. So we're talking about, and he kind of gave us a great classification of what Bigfoot really is and how to classify it. So, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's just, we got a lot to talk about for sure.
Oh man. And I want to point out the elephant in the room. You noticed I've gone to a different view for the audience on YouTube. You got a killer ET over your shoulder. Man. That's awesome, dude.
He's a screen accurate,
wow,
size too. So he's my co-host.
That's like actual ET size.
Yeah.
Right?
He's he's on a box, but he stands about 3.5 feet tall.
I love it. If I had that, I would one day I would put a little blonde wig on him, like in the movie and all that stuff. And dude, exactly. I love it.
Exactly. He's awesome. Everybody's got to have an ET, man.
You got it. The humor so I want to point out, listeners, if you haven't checked out Eric's YouTube videos, one, they're awesome. Two, if you're into stuff like, hopefully you take this the right way. If you like stuff like Josh Gates stuff, like Destination Truth, there's it's paranormal, but there's humor in there, and the Ghost Adventures a little bit too. Yeah. You're gonna love this. But the thing is, you do some serious investigation in these videos. But before we get into that, I want just a weird off question, because I've never talked to anyone who's performed for President Clinton.
Yeah.
What's it like to perform for President Clinton in the late 80s or late 90s? That's so crazy.
Well, it was incredible. I mean, just a short story. I wanted to try to take my music to another level, and I just didn't want to do the bar scene and all that kind of stuff and just, make minimum of what we can make as jazz musicians. So because I love the music that much, I thought it was, the integrity of the music needs to be, strong. So I went right to the top. I went right to the White House, and I called the White House and I said, "Do you have any programs where you send musicians around to perform?" And originally I thought maybe they would send us around to perform for troops overseas, maybe for the homeless, some kind of thing, some kind of positive outreach with jazz. So I sent in a CD that I had at the time and some loose press clippings from a newspaper story. Just nothing, nothing that was in a folder, nothing. I just threw it in the thing and sent it to the White House. And about a week later, I'm on the road and I go check my phone when they had those the telephones on the side of the road that you could
Yep.
So I checked my messages, and and it said, this is the White House. We'd like to invite the Eric Mintel Quartet to the White House for Christmas. So we actually played for a dinner reception, a holiday dinner reception for President Clinton, and it was wild, man. I mean,
man,
we had a saxophone all set up and ready to go, and this was the day after the Monica Lewinsky thing, like, just blew up.
Oh man, don't make me edit stuff out of this, but that's amazing.
It was just crazy. And then I know it was crazy, but he was totally cool. He came in the room, and he's a tall guy. I'm about 6'1".
Okay.
He's at least 6'3", 4. And he came in, and I said, "Mr. President, Eric Mintel," I said, "we have a mutual friend in Dave Brubeck." He goes, Dave Brubeck. I just gave Dave Brubeck the National Medal of the Arts Award, which he did like the month prior.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to 2011, I had said, my girlfriend said, you should try to call the White House again. And I said, oh man, there's no way. That was just a once in a lifetime thing. There's no way I'd ever be able to get back that. She goes, "Oh, just try it again. So I had the phone. I had the phone number in my phone still. And so I called it, and they said, "Oh yeah, they knew who I was. What's your availability for December 14th of 2011? So
wow.
So we did a concert for President and Mrs. Obama, which was really cool. And then at the end of that, at the end of our set, they take us into what's called the diplomatic room, and that's where I met Clinton too.
Okay.
And took us in there, and again, and it was kind of, you see him on TV and you don't really make the register, but there he is. He's alive. He's a real. So we went up there, and I shook his hand, and I said, "Mr. President," I said, "again, we have a mutual friend in Dave Brubeck," because he knew Dave Brubeck as well.
Oh,
and
sure.
And he says, "Dave Brubeck was the very first jazz concert I went to go see with my father."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there were some really great connections there, and they were great people. They just love jazz, and it was really, really cool.
Oh man, thank you for sharing those memories. That's fantastic.
That was through cool. Jeremiah. I got to also share that was through complete, utter grassroots. I have never had an agent. I've never had a manager. Nothing. I've always just called up and asked. So if anybody ever gets anything from this, just ask.
That's one of the best pieces of advice. I've gotten that too. And some of the best interviews I've gotten are because I found a connection somehow and just asked. Don't be freaked out like, oh, such and such would never talk to me. And if they say no, don't worry about it.
Exactly.
You're okay. You're okay to get a few no's, but you get the yes.
Exactly.
And that's pretty awesome. Man. Eric, that story is going to be with me for a while. That is a good story. How do you?
I got several tonight. That's good.
I can tell you're a good story guy for sure.
You're gonna be scarred tonight.
I'm scarred after some of those videos. My goodness. How do you best summarize what you do with Eric Mintel Investigates?
Well, what we do is we're really paranormal tourism. If you really think about it, what we're doing is we're telling stories and going to these incredible places that have great ties to history. And then they also have a paranormal history to it as well. I mean, in my jazz career, and one of the reasons why I started this is because we would perform in all these wonderful, theaters and all these, maybe in a bed and breakfast or something like that, or these concert halls. And inevitably they would come up to me and say, and I wouldn't even ask, they'd say, "Oh yeah, and by the way, the place is haunted."
Oh, wow.
So that got me thinking, wow, wouldn't it be cool to do a show where jazz musicians, we play that gig that night, then we go back later at night and investigate the theater, which is kind of Scooby-Doo-ish, which I love. And I think that was kind of like the idea behind that as well, but in a serious format, and I know a lot of these shows take that Scooby-Doo format too. That's a lot, and it's cool because it works. I mean, and the day and age that we're in right now with paranormal, it is white hot right now because people are more open-minded to telling their story. They're more open-minded to, maybe not even 10 years ago, they didn't want to tell their story, but there's people that are now more open to telling, about their experiences. But so it's really paranormal tourism. And when COVID hit, we were thriving doing video because my thought process was, look, once everybody can get out of their houses again, people are going to want to go see these wonderful places.
Oh yeah.
And that's what we do. So we're telling stories. And one of the other reasons why I do this is not only the videos are available on our YouTube page and Facebook, but I also have a TV show, which is on cable. It's also on streaming networks as well, on like Amazon Fire TV and Roku, Apple TV. It's on Saturday nights at 11 o'clock through Princeton Television. So if people add Princeton Television to their smart TV,
heck yes,
they could see it every Saturday night at 11 o'clock. All of our different videos, if they don't have YouTube or Facebook. And then in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, it's up on 10 o'clock on Sunday nights on the Service Electric TV2. So those are two other areas, but the streaming services, we have access to 100 million homes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's huge. And so people love what we're doing. We're getting sponsors all the time, and we put videos out there. And like you said, humor is such an important part of what we do.
It really is.
Because, when we do experience some incredible things. And we have been capturing some unbelievable stuff on video. I mean, it's just like with this Beast of Bray Road investigation alone, that changed my whole perspective on the Dogman phenomena, which I had heard about, but I didn't really put too much into it. But oh my God, that night was just absolutely mind blowing.
From what I've seen so far, there's a few scenes in your videos about the Beast of Bray Road where I was like, oh wow, so they captured that live. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
They captured that live. It was nuts.
It was crazy. Should we talk about it? Should we talk about it?
We'll get there in a little bit. I know people are like, come on, stop batting around. But I do want. There's an important part coming up, and I gave you the questions ahead of time, so you know what's coming. But being primarily a paranormal investigator, I'm always curious about this because sometimes I feel like certain paranormal investigators, and we won't like say names or anything, but like they view cryptids as maybe being like second tier. But like, how is it that you are viewing cryptids as a paranormal investigator? Things like Bigfoot, Beast of Bray Road, things like that.
As like on a top tier, as far as like,
are you taking them seriously or, things like that?
Yeah. Jeremiah, I sometimes especially in the ghost situation, I will take that a little bit more skeptically than I will a Bigfoot or a UFO, because I've had UFO experiences. So I know that's more of a serious subject for me. And with the Bigfoot phenomena, I mean, the litmus test for Bigfoot is that Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not a guy in a suit. I'm sorry. People are going to,
no, it's not.
It's just, I mean, and those guys were there that day. They just were in the right place at the right time. And they got that. They caught it. So not only that, but then some of the experiences we recently had with Bigfoot, which we'll get into as well with some Bigfoot researcher friends of mine who we did an investigation of in the New Jersey Pine Barrens and actually got evidence there on camera. And so yeah, I take I take that subject seriously because, there's a lot of people that are seeing this creature all over the country, all over the world, really. But especially here in, even in the Midwest, Idaho, your area. I mean, this is huge. So, you can't discount millions of people that are actually seeing some kind of creature. I mean, I talked to a gentleman who had, he said he had seen as a 9-year-old kid, he didn't even talk about this for years. And he opened up about it saying that he saw like a whirlwind of light.
Oh.
That all of a sudden it was like a tornado of light. And out of the tornado of light stepped 2 huge Bigfoot creatures.
Really?
So wow. Where were they? Was he in a portal? Was he in some kind of tear in the fabric of time and space? I don't know. I mean, there's so many different theories about that. So I never discount people. I'm a pretty good judge of like, okay, what's real, what's not real.
Right.
But when you have people who have the emotional quality behind their voice and you can hear their desperation.
You can
what
tell
they want to try to figure out what this is.
Yeah.
That's what I feel with Lee Hample on Beast of Bray Road.
Exactly.
Lee is just not only a phenomenal guy, but he is genuinely perplexed as to finding out what the hell this thing is.
Yep.
He knows what it is, but we're just trying to figure out what is it and why is it not being shown up on the trail cams? Why is it being like it's invisible?
Crazy.
But it's there.
Wow. Yeah.
I got a story to tell you later that
will
blow your mind, man.
Oh my goodness. The cool thing that I've made a focus with this podcast. One of the big things is I like my listeners to be able to feel like they're taking something solid away from it that can really help them. And as they start their own investigation and their research and feel like, oh, I got to write this down, right? This is good advice. Do you mind if we take a few minutes? Do you have any good advice for those that might be wanting to start investigating cryptids themselves? Anything to keep in mind, best practices, stuff like that? I
would say just do as much research as you can on a particular area that you're trying to investigate, whether it's Bigfoot or Dogman. Try to find out. The main thing is see if you could get witnesses to talk.
Okay.
That would be the main thing too, because if you can get witnesses to talk about their experience, that gives you a little bit more of a direction on where to go. And the other thing is what we just talked about, just ask, don't be afraid to ask. But yeah, I would say, and also make sure that where you're going to investigate, make sure it's legal too, that you're,
it's so true.
You go into that area.
True. Yeah.
We were in a cornfield and all of a sudden we heard gunshots.
Oh no.
So I was like, I don't know. We better get the hell out of here.
We're not in Pennsylvania anymore. It's time to get out.
We beat feet out of there. So
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, those kind of things, and just mainly the research, just the research and what they're actually, and also don't get too crazy as far as don't get too excited if you hear sounds and you hear things and think that, right away that's something there.
Okay.
That would be my main concern. And, and just be prepared. Be prepared for anything that could happen. And that's one thing I didn't do. And we'll talk about that too.
Gotcha. When you're looking into, let's say, going into, you're saying researching a certain area, what are you always relying on certain resources in order to research that area out? Do you have any go-to resources for things like that?
Well, you got to look at the local lore or the local.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Look at so in my area here in Bucks County, there's a lot of ghost stories. There's a lot of venues that are attached that have ghost stories. So, you read about the ghost stories. A lot of people have written books about this particular area. So, obviously you consult the books, you consult the internet, try to look and see if there's been any stories written about those particular places. And look for the clues. Look for the clues of what can I investigate that hasn't been investigated before.
Oh,
like maybe something that doesn't. It's kind of because we get all the time that people had no clue that there was an underground railroad in this place that we investigated, where they've been passing it every day for the last 20 years, but never knew it had major ties to the Underground Railroad. We did this a place called the Wedgwood Inn in New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And what blew me away was the owners bought it in 1982. And then in 1999, he looks at his foundation of his building and says, why is my foundation crumbling here? And he goes and puts a light in there. And here there's like a 15-foot tunnel.
Whoa.
Under the house. And complete with an escape hatch and everything. And the Delaware River is right there. So Delaware. Secret staircase inside the house as well.
Man.
So what blew me away was here he's standing on this for 17 years, walking back and forth.
No idea.
No idea it was there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that's good advice. You seem to have a lot of really good tech with you from the videos that I've seen. What are you carrying in your field bag when you're going out to investigate? What kind of thing? Must have all stuff in that bag.
Are you kidding me? No.
Yeah.
we have very minimal stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We have literally one camera that we use.
Wow.
one camera, maybe two, but usually one camera. And we usually use it on, if we're at night, we'll use the night vision. But the one thing that we've really gotten lately is lavalier microphones, which they're called Cinco, and they're great wireless mics. If people are out there doing video, I highly recommend those lavaliers. And they're really easy to use, and they've got a great range to them, and they pick up the great sound as well. But if we're doing a ghost investigation or anything like that, I have a magnetometer that we use, and for the Bigfoot investigation, we have infrared, and again, the night vision, and then your typical flashlight. But we also, when we're doing ghosts, we'll also do a EVP. So we'll have a voice recorder.
Sure. Yep.
And which we've actually caught some disembodied voices on this recorder, which has been phenomenal. And that's really it. We don't have a lot of, tech. I got maybe one or two people usually on camera following us around. And then sometimes it's my team member, Dominic Sattel, who has been with me. Well, I've known Dominic since high school. And so all these years went by, and Dominic came into the team in 2017. And then I later find out he's a spirit medium. Never knew this.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
So now
synchronicity.
And so Dominic, when Dominic goes on the cases with us, when we're doing a ghost investigation, he's giving us like a preview of what we're about to see. Now I'll go into a place and I'll get the history of this particular venue. I won't tell Dominic. We also work with another spirit medium, Karen Luchin. She's in our videos as well. I won't tell either of them any of the history of that place. So when we go there, I know the history, and I could corroborate with them whether or not what they're feeling at that particular time, and see if they're picking up on what I already know. And 99% of the time, they're right on the money.
That's some crazy stuff.
But Dominic was with me for the Beast of Bray Road, and I'll tell you, this was completely out of his wheelhouse. It was just, it was freaky. Freaked him out.
So here's a question. We'll start talking about Beast of Bray Road stuff. Did he pick up any weird stuff when he was up there?
I got to think here. I think he did, but he didn't get any kind of ghost type things. He was feeling like a very weird energy.
Weird. Yeah. That's very,
and that did come into play later on.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it seems like you have a big focus on, well, especially right now, you have a huge focus on Beast of Bray Road, because you are premiering, almost right after this, you're premiering a new video about the Beast of Bray Road, and then you're going on Coast to Coast AM later tonight, right?
Actually, that was this morning.
Oh my goodness. Wow. You must be so tired.
I was on this morning from 3 to 5.
Thank you so much for coming on. You must be exhausted.
Dude. I got a couple hours of sleep. I never sleep.
All right.
Cool. But that was a phenomenal show last night as well. And and I was looking forward to this today, because what you're doing is, you and I are in sync as far as what our thought process is about this.
Totally.
So I was really looking forward to this tonight.
I appreciate that. So let's start out with this. So let's say hypothetically there's someone listening to this that was like, Beast of Bray Road, what's that? So how is it that you summarize what's this cryptid? What's it all about with the Beast of Bray Road first?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. And basically, the Beast of Bray Road is supposed to be an upright canine, dogman type werewolf creature, cryptid.
Yeah.
Bipedal, standing on two legs, very, very fast, red glowing eyes. And that's what the reports that people have seen, especially Lee, on the property.
Right.
So it's almost like it's so fast. This is the other thing that we've been getting lately. And it's got a very strange gait. It can also walk on all fours.
Okay.
But it's also on two legs as well. People have been seeing this now. This goes all the way back to 1936, when the first reports of this happened. Is this the same creature from 1936? I don't think so. I think there's a family. There's got to be a family of these things, because, you know, if it was from the 30s, it would, you know, it'd be, how ancient would it be right now, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think there's a family of these creatures there.
Oh man.
And so that's what it is. It's like, for all intents and purposes, like a werewolf.
Oh, and so if you start to get into cryptids, like everyone has their own take on the Beast of Bray Road. But the thing I love about your show, Eric, is that you have a take on it. That, I mean, you are doing stuff in your investigations, and like that, I don't want to give it away. I really don't want to give it away what you did with the mannequin.
Yeah.
But it is so unique, and I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like, and it's also humorous too.
But... Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I got to tell you though, it's funny because Ellen, I have to go back to the team member now. So our team members for this, and how this video came to be, initially was our friend and fan of ours, Ellen Collins, and she's on our team as well.
Okay.
She loves what we do with the videos and sponsored a couple of videos for us initially, you know, that we did early on. And we were talking about the Beast of Bray Road, and she said, you know, we should do a video on the Beast of Bray Road. And I said, I would love to do that. I said, you know, it's just really going to boil down to logistics. Like, how are we going to get out there, and money? Like, I've got to edit this thing, and it's going to be a lot of work to do that. So she wound up paying for the whole thing. She paid she paid for us to go out there and for me to edit it. And that was the first time. And this follow-up she did as well. That's amazing. So we are forever. We love Ellen Collins. She is phenomenal. And she's, and we're all on the same page. Like, one of my favorite shows is Mountain Monsters with Trapper and all those.
For real, dude. Yes.
Love that show.
They're so good.
Trapper had some of the best one-liners, man. They were
it's good.
The best. So that was one of the, when you talked about humor, that's my initial thought process was I wanted to kind of approach the show similar to that if we're going out on a Bigfoot hunt or something like that. But as we progress now, I know that it's more of a serious thing, because what we're doing is really, we're in a dangerous situation. And, you know, sometimes that stuff could be manufactured on TV, but what we were doing was completely, you know, for real. And like I said, we were not prepared whatsoever. And that was my fault.
So it sounded like that. It sounded like there's almost a thing that took the whole situation and made it much more serious. Was there a turning point in the investigation where things got like, you're like, whoa, what is going on here?
Well, yes. I mean, if we could talk about, you want to talk about it now? Do you want to start talking about it?
Totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because there was a trifecta of paranormal activity that happened that night.
Let's do it.
But I have to start earlier in the day.
Okay.
Because earlier in the day on October 3rd, we met up with Lee Hampel, and your listeners are familiar with Lee. He owns a 35-acre hay farm in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And it's right, he's 0.2 of a mile from Bray Road, right? So he's that's where all this activity has been happening on his farm. Yeah. When he bought the farm in 2007, he didn't start farming there until 2011, I think it was. And then 2013, I think, was one of his first encounters. But he said his farmer neighbor said, "Oh, by the way, the creature lives on your property.
So have fun."
And he's like, "What?" Good luck with that. And Lee had no interest whatsoever in the paranormal. Nothing. He was a retired math teacher.
Okay.
You know, he was a farmer, you know, early on, but then it was 35 years retired with math teacher in Wakanda, Illinois. And so he had no interest in the paranormal until he had his own encounter, which changed his whole perspective, and then started taking all of this seriously. And his data that he has, pictures, video, he's kept that completely pure, untainted, and just some of the pictures and video will blow you away. But so earlier in the day, Lee took us down to the field where all of this activity took place. Ellen's son, Scott, was with us, and he's our drone operator. He was also our camera operator. Scott builds high-tech drones, high-end, really fast drones. So he wears virtual reality glasses. When he wears it, right? So we're in the field. Lee's taking us down. Lee's on a tractor. We're on four-wheelers going down because it's 35 acres. It's a long way to go.
Yeah.
So we went down there. Scott's trying to follow us through his goggles and through the drone.
Oh, man.
We disappeared. We disappeared in the field.
What?
We completely disappeared.
Whoa, dude.
So there was some kind of thing happening, which was like a portal type situation.
Whoa.
Lee has pictures of portals. Now, I know that sounds really out there.
No way, dude.
It's when I kid you not. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. But it's like, so we go down there, and I didn't find this out till later that Scott couldn't find us on there, and then finally found us when we got through this one area.
Oh, man.
And then we were down at the bait area talking to Lee. So that was the first thing. So electronic disturbances happened all night long. Thank God our camera worked okay.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. So we get down there, and then Lee took us to the barn later on that afternoon and showed us more pictures and video. Just, I mean, stuff that just incredible stuff. Lights going through the field or going through the woods.
Yeah, wow.
It reminded me of the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Yep.
Now, we went over to the woods this time around. There's no way it could be vehicles or anything going through the woods because the woods are so thick. You'd have to stop every second to get through the trees, you know, if you were driving on a four-wheeler at night. But these lights were just straight on through. It was just spookiest thing ever. So so we go out. I said to Lee, I said, thank you so much for, giving us full access to the farm. And he goes, just be careful out there. So we get out there, and Dominic goes, initially, he says, do you want to take the four-wheelers? Do you think we should just walk down there? I don't want to scare anything away. Well, that didn't matter. I said, we took the four-wheelers down, and it was within 5 minutes, we had activity happening.
Really?
So earlier, it looked like it was cloudy. It looked like it was going to rain. So I thought, and we're probably we're going to have to scrub the investigation. Well, anyway, so we look up, it's completely clear over the field that we were in. It cleared up completely. So the first thing, Dominic gets off the four-wheeler. We're starting to set up to investigate this area. And Scott had a GoPro as well in the tree on the bait area too.
Oh, okay.
So he had a GoPro on there. So Dominic looks up and goes, what the hell is that? And here it was a solid orb of light going over the field. It was for all intents and purposes, it was a UFO. Oh, you could see other planes. You could see planes blinking, and they were there. This thing was a solid orb just going over the field very fast. And as it's going over, we're trying to figure out what the hell it is. And then as we're talking, it does like a little 45-degree angle and disappears.
Oh, man.
You could see it all on the video. The video is called The Beast of Bray Road, Alive and Well. People could see that. That was the first thing. So right after that, this was the craziest thing ever. So, and again, I'm going, for your listeners, I'm going out there thinking that we're going to do a great story and we're going to do this great documentary, not thinking we'd actually run into this creature. So the second thing that happened was we hear this howl in the distance.
It's wild.
It's a very faint howl. Mm-hmm. Then a second closer.
Mm.
Dominic goes to Ellen, are you hearing this? And she goes, yeah, it's coming over from that way. And as she says that, the third howl, it was the most, I can't even describe what it is. It was not a wolf. It wasn't a coyote. It wasn't a fox, an owl, nothing like that. Yeah. It actually sounded like a man screaming.
Oof.
It was like a real guttural howl scream that just kept going.
Oh my God.
And we had a witness, a state worker that actually talked to me, and he didn't want his face on camera.
Okay.
He and a coworker described the same thing that we heard.
Really?
When they got out to check some power lines up in that area. So they heard the same thing we did. So it was startling, man. And here's the other thing. We had those little lavalier microphones on.
Yep.
This picked it up. And those are small mics. That's how loud this thing was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
To pick up that sound. So that right away changed my whole perspective. I'm like, there's definitely something here. And it was just like, and here we are. I have a flashlight and a radio. That's it. We have no protection whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
So I'm like, oh my God. So we stayed out there though. We still stayed out there to figure out what was going on, where this thing was coming from. Scott shined the light over to where we heard the howl, and and the corn was up at this point. This corn was still up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This particular follow-up that we did, the corn was down this time, but this time in October of last year, the corn was still up. He shines the light over there, and you could see eye shine in the corn. And this thing is supposed to be about 7 feet tall. And here it's 7 foot up in the corn and the tree line. And you could see the eyes going like this. It was dancing around, like stalking us. So that really, right there, I said to myself, oh, we're in a dangerous situation here, because we could hear rustling going on behind us as well. And there was no wind. It was completely dead silent, no wind, dead calm, except for the howl and this rustling sound. So I started getting like, well, look, we might want to get out of here.
Yeah.
We might want to get the hell out of here. So we still stuck it out a little bit. This was within 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
That's nuts.
It was just crazy. So the third thing that happened, the other trifecta here, was that there was a weird mist that came up from the field.
No way. Oh, man.
So here's the other thing that, and I'm sure your listeners, I'm sure you know about this. There's a mist that's also associated with Bigfoot.
I've heard of that. Yep.
Bigfoot sightings. So was this also a Bigfoot there? Because there also was tracks. There were square tracks that Lee and his brother Fred found that we call the knuckle walkers,
Okay. Yeah.
They were like square tracks, but all of a sudden this weird mist comes up, and we're like, what the hell? And then it was cutting out the electronics. That was the other thing. It was cut. Then suddenly our microphones were starting to cut in and out. And so I said to Ellen and Dominic, I said, look, guys, we really should get out of here. I said, I really don't want to put anybody in a dangerous situation. I want to keep everybody safe. And they said, yeah, let's get out of here. So literally we were only out there maybe 45 minutes, if that. And we were already back to Lee's barn, back to the hotel. And here's the other thing, Jeremiah. Later on that night, the entire town of Elkhorn went out of power.
Really?
It lost power.
Oh boy, that's
very,
weird.
Very, very weird, man. And I had, so in the morning, I looked on my hotel room floor, and I had a stick I must have brought back from Lee's property. And I go, Dom, look, I got a stick. He's like, you brought it back with you, didn't you?
Dude, that is the crazy story. That's October of 2021.
Yeah, that was
okay.
all the night of October 3rd, 2021.
Okay. And then you guys were also at the conference in April in 2022, right?
One footnote to that story, Jeremiah, real quick, was I got to tell you, this is again with these electronic disturbances. Scott's GoPro didn't capture anything.
Oh man.
Lee said that the trail camera that was down there by the bait area, it shut off at 5 o'clock that night, and it didn't go on again until 7 o'clock the next morning. And guess what? The bones were gone. All the stake bones that I had baited that area, they were gone.
Oh man.
So I don't know what. But it was the most freakiest night, man. And we were really, for months after, for a good 3-4 months, and still kind of like trying to wrap our heads around what the hell happened. And then this time around, we were there in April, and it was really, the weather was really tough this time around. It was kind of cold and windy, and but we got some great stuff. But what I loved about this particular video this time around was we did a town hall meeting.
It's so good.
On the night of April 28th. Wait until you see. I mean, when people see this, there were so many people that came out and told their stories. And again, we're not afraid to tell their story. And it was just, it again reiterates the fact that there's something there. There's definitely something there.
Oh yeah.
So it was amazing.
So as a investigator, the paranormal investigator, you're in ghosts, UFOs, cryptids. What do you think is going on up there? Is maybe some kind of window area, or we just have no idea? This is weird.
Well, I seriously think, I had said to Lee, I said, do you think this is a portal? He's like, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He absolutely believes that. And I'm starting to believe that as well.
Wow.
Because why would that? And I had the thinking of when we saw that orb going over the field, Lee has pictures during the day of these strange orbs that are in the sky. And inside this clear orb, it looks like there's a figure inside the orb that looks like it's outstretched like this, like a creature. It looks like it's like a cross inside this orb. And I thought to myself, could this have been deposited that night? Could they have come from the orb? Could they have come from the UFO? Because I'm a big believer too, and I know a lot of people are on the fence about it, but I'm always a big believer in the Bigfoot UFO connection.
Sure.
And one of our friends, Art Mack, who's a Bigfoot researcher, which we'll talk about for our Bigfoot, he had a pretty cool analogy as far as that goes with Bigfoots and UFOs. But that area, for sure, there is definitely some kind of portal there, because the energy, that place changes at night. It's definitely changes at night.
Weird.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so good. Everyone needs to go watch all the Beast of Bray Road stuff you got, because the stuff I've seen, it blew me away, and the stuff that's coming sounds really good too. But dude, let's talk about so you've also you've done some Bigfoot stuff in New Jersey. Let's chat about that. What was that like?
My God. Well, that was here. So it's a week after we get back from Elkhorn.
Oh man, really?
And I mean, we were like boom, 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 investigation after investigation. And a good friend of ours, Eric Spinner and Art Mack, they're Bigfoot researchers in Medford, New Jersey area, in I guess central New Jersey. And I did a Bigfoot investigation with Eric in July of 2020. Okay. And we did a video where, there were reports of juvenile Bigfoots in this particular area of the Pine Barrens. And Bill Burns from UFO Hunters is in some of the videos with us as well. And but we did this investigation during the day, and it was pretty much just kind of like a documentary type video at that point. But when we came back from Elkhorn a week later, we're going now to the Pine Barrens in New Jersey at night.
Okay, yep.
And it's pitch black. I mean, we went into this area called the Bowl. Now, this is an area that has had a lot of activity, and the way it's configured, it's it's like a bowl. It's like high on the sides and low in the middle. So we went about this night. It was me and Dominic and Art and Eric and Eric's wife, and Eric's daughter was actually helping us film. So we go 5 miles into the Pine Barrens on the fire roads that are in the Pine Barrens. And then we park, and I mean, there is not a soul around. There's no houses, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing around. So we got out of the truck and went about 600 yards into the woods and set up base camp. So, we start the cameras and we get the lights on. We have it in night vision mode and everything. And we talked to Eric about, his protocols as far as how does he do his Bigfoot research, with tree knocks and what kind of equipment he brings. Dominic's talking to Art. And as he's talking to Art, all of a sudden we hear, whoop.
Whoa, man.
Like that.
Yep.
And I said to myself, and here's the other thing. I sometimes watch the Bigfoot programs, and I always laugh half the time when they're
exactly.
Whooping,
right? I get it.
They're
I get it.
And hollering. But I was like, I'll be damned if that's not what we heard.
We heard it, yeah.
I respect them now.
Yeah.
And I said, my God, that was like, so we heard that, played it back. Because Eric had some really high-powered microphones, and you could definitely hear it better than what was on my video.
Wow.
So here it was. So then Eric's wife starts answering it back, and she starts whooping back to it, and it's answering back. And this happened like 4 or 5 times. But here's the other thing. You could hear a huge rustling sound behind us that it was completely pitch black, but you couldn't see anything. But you could also, there were some pinpoints of red light that we could also see that was just very, very strange. But you could hear this. So what we thought was this was probably the something, Mama Bigfoot or whatever, coming to get, because it sounded like a juvenile Bigfoot, which is what people have been reporting.
Okay.
We didn't see it. I got to reiterate that we did not see anything. We just heard it. But again, it was that epiphany of like, my God, there's something here. and it wasn't birds, anything like that. It wasn't a goose, because you could definitely tell the difference between this. This was like another one of those guttural type of whoops,
Oh yeah.
We did, and that was a really weird night, man. We spent a couple hours out there, and that was so I turned off the night vision so people could see what it actually looked like.
Okay.
Pitch black.
Not
You
bad.
couldn't see anything. We had maybe a sliver of a moon, and that was about it. But man, it was just so wild. And I was like, man, we are capturing some incredible footage here that some of the mainstream shows aren't even getting.
Yeah.
Dude,
that is, man, you have some crazy encounters.
Yeah.
I always love to ask any of my guests that, and I talk to a lot of my guests are Bigfoot related. But I got to put you on the spot. Like, what do you think Bigfoot is? Like,
well, Tom Carey and I had mentioned Tom Carey, who's an anthropologist. He has a classification for Bigfoot, and now I'm going to kick myself here because I can't remember what the actual classification is. It's a not Gigantopithecus, because people always think that Bigfoot is a ancestor of Gigantopithecus. Proantho, I think it was
Paranthropus.
Yes, Paranthropus.
Yeah. So Cliff Eric agrees with that too. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we think it is. It's got the sagittal crest.
Yep.
The muscles that go to, like you see in the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's something that hasn't really been classified, because it's something that has not been really. It's been studied, but it hasn't really been classified as of yet. Yeah. There was a gentleman up the street from here I've read a story in the newspaper about his Bigfoot encounter, and it was in northern Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And he swears, I mean, he had activity outside of his tent, howls, and just it was just right outside of his tent. Saw footprints in the morning. The crazy thing is, I think his brother was in the military. And he was at the Pentagon. It was doing a pinning ceremony for to go to the next level of the military.
Yep.
And he was invited down for that. And as he's walking through the Pentagon, he sees a door, and over the door it says Bigfoot Research Center.
No, stop it. Stop it.
So it's like,
that's amazing, dude.
Do they know what's going on? And there's been like government contracts that are studying those.
No, that's legit. That is legit. Yeah. Yeah. You can find like, that there are stories out there. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%, dude. Man, you have got some amazing stories. I just had something popping in my head. You being in Pennsylvania, have you ever considered like going out to the Chestnut Ridge area and doing investigations out there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We definitely want to do something there. I want to work it out where if any of your listeners or philanthropists out there, help Jeremiah out as well.
Thanks, Eric. No, but seriously,
Bigfoot investigation. But no, seriously, we got to ask, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
because we're putting out. This is great content, but the Chestnut Ridge, unbelievable accounts going on.
Crazy, dude.
So there's something going on down there. That to me, the Chestnut Ridge is another portal type area.
Sure.
I really believe that. What I was talking about with Bigfoot UFO, Art Mack, one of the researchers that was with us in the Pine Barrens, we were talking about, a lot of people don't think that there's any connection. I thought there would be a connection because, Stan Gordon, I'm sure you're familiar with Stan.
Yep.
Stan had written a book called the Pennsylvania UFO Bigfoot Casebook. And in the summer of 73 and into 1974, there were Bigfoot sightings all over Midwestern Pennsylvania. But not only Bigfoot sightings, but also UFO sightings.
Oh, yeah.
Which were accompanying Bigfoot. So it was just, so that to me was saying, well, are they coming from outer space? I don't know. That's what I don't know. But what I love what Art said was, why not, if people are being abducted by extraterrestrials, why not Bigfoot? Yeah. Maybe they want to find out, and maybe they're depositing him or it, after they do their examination. That's why you're seeing the UFO and the Bigfoot together. you know, it's just different ways of thinking. You know, I know it's pretty out there to think that way, but it's that's why we're here. We're talking about all kinds of different ideas.
And the cool thing about like, so this particular podcast is I try to get viewpoints from all over the place. So I talk to some people that are like, no, it's definitely just an ape, to it's you know, relic, you know, it's a missing link, or it's a alien, or like, you know, Ron Moorhead, where it's like quantum Bigfoot, all different ideas, and
Right.
it's all cool. So
Yeah,
Eric, it has been so fun to chat with you. I can't believe that like we are almost already done. But
holy
I it's crazy, right? But I want to I want to make sure that you are able to have the time to, you know, present again, where people can keep up to date with everything you got coming out, and all that good stuff.
absolutely. Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, they could find all of our videos on our YouTube channel. If they can like and subscribe to our channel, that would be phenomenal. It's Eric Mintel Investigates. And that's Eric Mintel, Mintel, as you see on the screen. And then our Facebook page too is Eric Mintel Investigates, same name. We are very, very active on Facebook and on YouTube, and also on Instagram as well. I have Instagram. It's Eric Mintel Investigates. But we're active. I interact with people. Anybody, you know, I got some great reviews from last night's show on Coast to Coast, and so I always take the time to try to you know, answer people, because you know, our audience, just like my jazz audience, is really important to us. So you know, we're putting out some great content, and I want to make sure that, you know, people enjoy what we do. And so far, people are really digging what we're doing. You know, I'm loving it. It's been a lot of fun, man. I'm so glad to make this connection with you and your show, man, because you are doing so many great things. It's awesome, dude.
I'm pumped to that you reached out, and you know, we made it happen, and
absolutely
so excited. And dude, we'll have to do, you know, maybe it's sometime in the future, we'll definitely catch up with you. But thanks again for coming on, Eric. This has been a fun chat.
You got it, man. Thank you, Jeremiah. Good night, everybody.
Real quick announcement before we head out. I've got the opportunity of going on my first Bigfoot expedition at the end of July. Currently, I'm trying to raise money to buy gear for that. If you want to specifically support Bigfoot Society, and you know, as I go into my first Bigfoot expedition, feel free to do that by going over to the Bigfoot Society Etsy page and buying a t-shirt over there. That will help fund my gear for that expedition. You can also join the Patreon, patreon.com/Bigfoot/the Bigfoot Society. I'm about to talk about that again in a few minutes, but that's where you'll be able to see. I'll be putting some interviews from that expedition. Plan is to put some extra content directly from that expedition into the Patreon. So definitely support the podcast through there as well. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Bigfoot Society podcast. Please take a few minutes to review the show on iTunes, 5 stars, as it does help us get into the eyes and ears of more listeners on iTunes. That will help us just get bigger and bigger and get even better quality guests for future shows. Also, if you have any Bigfoot encounters or cryptid encounters, please send your stories and audio and photos, whatever you've got, over to bigfootsociety@gmail.com. If you'd like to become more involved with Bigfoot Society and get some extra content, we do have a Patreon where you can get all sorts of cool things. For example, for $7 a month, you get extra Bigfoot Society content, usually interviews, but other things as well. You get a sweet membership card and a vinyl sticker that I sent you in the mail. You get access to the Bigfoot Society after show, which is an extra interview after the main interview with the weekly guest, and usually they are up for Patreon members to be in that extra show segment with them and me, and you get to ask your question live to them and get an answer from the guest, which, as you've seen what guest we've had in the past, this could be a really big deal. There's also a private Discord where you can get involved with talking to me one-on-one and the community there, and that's always a great time. You can find the Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. We're very thankful for all our supporters that we have in so many different ways, and appreciate all our listeners coming back week after week to listen to more cryptozoology-based interviews. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Bigfoot Society. Any content provided by our guests are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone. Thank you.